Hello, everyone, and welcome to CritterCon Live. First of all, thank you guys so much for being here and supporting our educators. And why are our educators so important? It's because that they go to public libraries, they go to schools, they go to birthday parties, and all over the place to educate the public about wildlife and conservation. And that, to me, is very important. And if you have a ticket right now, that means it is important to you as well. And you are supporting them in this time when typically they are doing presentations almost every single day, and they are reaching hundreds of thousands of people. So I'm hoping that at least we can get a few people educated and get you to see some amazing animals today. And then as for our event, we had sponsors. We did not do this alone. So thank you so much to gold sponsor Josh's Frogs, as well as Superior Shipping Supplies, and silver sponsors S&J Reptiles and Morelia Python Radio. So if you guys could please check out the links in the description. Go support our sponsors because they are supporting animal education, and we thank them for that. So as far as my co-host right here, this is actually the Brain, who's a corn snake, and the white coloration is actually what we call in the hobby a snow. So he is a snow corn snake, and this is the Brain, and he is excited for our 4 amazing presenters tonight. So our first presenter is from the Chicagoland area. It is comprised of Colin and Mike, and they make up Crosstown Exotics. They do shows all over the place. They have a lot of amazing animals. They really specialize in reptiles and invertebrates. So please allow me to welcome Colin and Mike of Crosstown Exotics.
Hey, how's it going? Again, like Joe said, my name is Colin and this is Mike. We are Crosstown Exotics. We're a Chicago-based reptile and bug show. And today we've got Drax, the caiman lizard Mike's going to be telling you about. We've got Nebula, the green anaconda. And if we have some time, we're going to show you a couple other creatures. So without further ado and not wasting any more time, Mike and Drax.
So like you said, this is Drax. And Drax is a caiman lizard. Some really, really unique things about this guy. One, his coloration. He's got this amazing red head, bright green body, but he's also a semi-aquatic lizard. They are from South America, Ecuador, Peru, I believe parts of Brazil, and they like to live in, kind of like swampy forested areas near streams, rivers, and things like that. And a lot of this guy's day is spent in the water searching for snails. These guys primarily eat snails in the wild, so they have a cool, they go to the bathroom all over, but they have a cool adaptation. Their jaw is kind of modified so it can crush snail shells. They've got like these molars in the back of their mouth that when they eat something like a snail, clam, shrimp or whatever, it just crushes it immediately, which is pretty cool. Drax here is still a baby. He can actually get 4.5 feet long, and they can weigh up to 10 pounds. So he's still got a lot of growing left to do here. And one reason they get their name caiman lizard, I don't know if you guys can see on his back, it kind of looks like a caiman's back, which is, it's like a crocodilian from South America. Pretty neat feature there. And he's also got the flattened tail, so he can swim very well. And these guys also have a third eyelid, which you probably won't be able to see, a nictitating membrane. They're like goggles for him, so he can see when he's swimming underwater. Pretty amazing animal here. Now, do we do questions on this one? Is that how that works? Or we go on to the next one? Should we move on there? I'm not sure he's posting them up, but I guess we'll keep talking. I think after this guy here, we are going to move on and see our green anaconda. So we got kind of a cool South America theme with our first 2 animals here. Awesome, there she is.
Oh. All right. So this is, I'll go down here. So this is Nebula, and Nebula is a green anaconda. Green anacondas live in Central and South America. These creatures are the largest snake species on the planet. They can get several hundred pounds. There's even some that have been thought to have reached over 30 feet long. And these animals are constrictors, like all snakes, because again, they don't have arms or legs. Snakes, woo!
Help you out.
Maybe if I put it around my neck here. She's a big girl. Nebula weighs probably around 45, 50 pounds.
Here, I'll help you out.
Yeah. It's hard to like balance her in the screen here, so I'll talk about her a little bit more. She's super awesome. Green anacondas are predators that eat things when they're adults, like large caiman, large and small caiman, capybara, which is the largest rodent species in South America. And then as babies, really just opportunistic, eating things from fish, bird, small mammals, other reptiles, things like that. Now, these animals live their lives primarily in the water. Because they're such a large species, it's much easier for them to move around when they're gliding through the shallows, okay? There's been many videos online where you see one after a big meal. They cannot submerge themselves because of like the air pocket in their belly. And you'll see them kind of floating above the rivers, and you see fishermen recording them because it's just the oddest thing in the world to see these animals go swimming after a meal. These creatures do have eyes on the top of their head. So unlike most snakes kind of have it more to the side, kind of like a crocodilian. These creatures have eyes that are more centered to the top of their head so that they can submerge themselves, but also kind of peek out of the water so they can ambush any potential prey that are looking to get a drink of water. Now, on these creatures, a lot of South American species have these yellow dots on the side of their body, those little rosettes. Those rosettes are to signify the eyes of another predator. Now, as adults, those eyes may look like a jaguar, but when they're younger, I believe that there is a species of owl or a raptor species that has those same colored eyes, that when they're young and they're curled up in like a bush or a tree or things like that, it's to kind of signify something looking back at you. So if you're a predator and you're looking for a meal and you see those little rosettes, it's going to basically kind of deter you from wanting to eat that creature because of, if it's looking back at you, obviously it's going to run away if you go to pursue it. So anacondas have razor sharp teeth and can stretch their jaws out. I know there's a big misconception that they can dislocate their jaw. Dislocating their jaw isn't really a thing. Because again, that wouldn't be super convenient for these animals, but they can stretch their jaws out. So Mike, do you want to get the skull here? We'll show the skull.
Yeah.
So this skull here.
You want me to hold it? Okay.
So this skull here, we can see these razor sharp teeth inside their mouth. Obviously, Nebula's not going to show us her teeth. But again, they've got these razor sharp teeth. This is based off of quite a large female. I believe it was over 20 feet long. And they can hinge. So basically this divider here is where they have a soft membrane. And that membrane just is like elastic. So they can stretch their mouth. They say about double the size of the width of their midsection. So pretty unique features on these creatures and an amazingly impressive set of teeth there that they work with. So I want to put that back so she doesn't completely demolish it. Awesome. Now, green anacondas are live-bearing snakes. And so the reproductive process is much like the garter snake. So the females will release a pheromone, and that will kind of tell, hey, boys, it's time for breeding season. And they will create what they call a breeding ball. And there's a lot of videos online with garter snakes doing such things like that, where dozens of males will come from miles around just to breed with the female. So so that's the same thing with the green anacondas. And now they're live bearers, so they'll have anywhere between, I think it's anywhere between 30 to 40 babies at a time. And the babies actually come out quite large. The babies come out around 1.5 to 2 feet long. And they're ready, rearing to go. Now, another cool fact here is you can see, let me see if I can turn her body. You can see a little bit of that yellow on her belly here. That belly is yellow because in the water, if they're swimming, these creatures are kind of vulnerable. All right. So if there's a big predator below them swimming, these animals can blend in with the sunlight of the water peering in. So you can get, there we go, a little bit of yellow coloration.
Yeah.
Yeah. But they can blend in with the sunlight just like sharks could do that as well. So, Joe, do we have any questions?
Or should we just move on to the toad? I don't know if we're doing all the way at the end.
No? Okay, cool. All right, I think we're going to move on. We're going to do a toad next. Yeah. Another South American, too.
Yeah, I think all the questions will be at the end. All right, guys, we are going to see Trevor next. And Trevor is a smooth-sided toad. Come here, buddy. Oh. Trevor's, I think, actually a girl. But see if we can see her. Oh. So, like I said, Trevor's a smooth-sided toad. And the reason we named Trevor. If you guys are Harry Potter fans, Neville Longbottom had a pet toad in the movie, and they used the same species of toad. So when we got this one, we're like, well, his name's got to be Trevor because that just makes sense. If I'm not mistaken, I believe these are the second largest toad in the world. And on average, I want to say they can get between like 5 and 6 inches, with females getting larger. And these are, like Colin said earlier, from South America, kind of like a rainforest type environment, right on the forest floor. And they are going to eat basically any kind of bugs or inverts that walk in front of them. Crickets, worms, roaches. Most of the Trevor's diet here is it's kind of varied up between crickets, roaches, the occasional night crawlers here and there, super worms. I mean, he's not really picky, or she. And one way that these toads protect themselves is that they have these 2 bumps on the back of their head right here. These here are called parotoid glands. And if you were looking at this toad like, wow, that toad looks delicious, and you try to take a bite out of it, you would put pressure on these and they'd shoot a poison into your mouth, and you would get violently sick, and then you'd probably never eat a toad again. And that's how these toads kind of protect themselves, as they secrete a poison. But in order to get that to happen, you really have to you got to squeeze or make the animal feel scared for it to secrete that. Most of the time, Trevor's pretty chill. And these are like an amazing toad species, super easy to keep. We've got a couple Trevors. And one of my favorite things is feeding time for these. I mean, and you can see that Trevor kind of lost her swimmer's physique there because she's an eater.
Landscape if possible, horizontal.
All right. I don't know. Should we move on to a bug?
Yeah, we can do a bug.
How are we looking on time?
We've done like 10 minutes, I believe.
Okay. Cool. We're going to do some inverts. All right. So these next bugs here, or I just call them, they're not necessarily bugs, but we are going to see an African giant millipede. And I'm going to see if I can get him to come out here. I don't know if this is.
Here.
So there we go. When these guys get nervous or when they're trying to kind of protect themselves, they ball up like this. Now, once this millipede, her name is Millie Bobby Brown. That's what we called her. So once she gets comfortable, she will kind of wake up and start moving around. There we go. These are the largest species of millipede in the world. They can get, on average, it's like 10 to 12 inches. And I believe I read in a Guinness Book of World Records once that the biggest one was 15, which was like a huge, huge millipede. These are actually super important animals for the environment where they're found. A lot of these millipedes you can find in various parts of Africa, but these guys are important because they're decomposers. So they eat a lot of like decaying vegetation and, dead wood, things like that. They also dig holes in the ground, just kind of like your night crawlers do, your earthworms. And what they do is they're digging through the soil. They, obviously they're making a hole in the ground. So it helps to oxygenate the soil. And the other thing is when they're underground after they've had a meal, they poop all over the place. And the plants love that. It helps put nutrients back in the soil, making them kind of like a big part of just kind of the whole nutrient cycle of when something dies, it gets kind of put back into the ground. Pretty cool animal. And these guys are, most of its diet is just, I give it dark leafy greens. We do, it likes the tortoise food. Occasionally I'll give it like an apple or something. But their mouth parts are actually very weak so that they almost have to eat food that's kind of rotten. Like when I give it apples, I have to take the skin off and kind of mush it up a little bit. This way it makes it easier for them to eat the food there. And the difference between millipedes and centipedes is that millipedes have 2 pairs of legs per body segment. So each one of these little segments here have 4 legs on them, 2 on each side. And if a centipede would be 1 pair of legs per body segment. And millipedes are all kind of slow moving, where like centipedes, when you see them, they move pretty quick. And the way this animal protects itself is if you were to try to eat it, it basically, it can kind of, they go to the bathroom on themselves and they secrete a bad tasting liquid. And some millipedes can actually secrete forms of cyanide, which is like a pretty toxic poison if you're to ingest it.
Found in apple seeds. Yeah,
it is found in apple seeds too. But yeah, these guys are one of my favorites. They're just like it's a giant bug. There we go. I think next here, what are we on time?
We're on. So
because we do have another really cool bug. See if I can get a shot of this guy's legs, because a lot of people like to see like when their legs are moving, it's just like this weird undulating pattern. I don't know if you guys see that pretty well. Awesome. Yeah. Yeah, and on average too, these guys can live almost like 7 to 9 years. I've even heard of some saying longer. I don't know if there's a whole lot known on that sometimes too, because they're kind of difficult to breed in captivity. I've gotten lucky a couple times where I get eggs and babies, but it's not very consistent. It's kind of like random when it happens.
Now, a funny story. When I was in high school, I was doing a presentation with one of these millipedes, and when they poop, their poop does stain. And
yeah,
so,
yeah,
a little stain. But honestly, it dyes your skin. And so, what's funny was after that program, an hour or two later, I actually had to go to a school dance, and so for prom. And we were taking the photos, and you know how the guys do that awkward photo, hand on the hip with the flowers and all that stuff. I had millipede poop stained to the back of my hand. So yeah, so forever I'll remember that one millipede, which was a Millie Ray Cyrus.
All
awesome.
right.
All right, we got one more bug for you guys.
Well, come here, buddy. We are going to see some roaches, and because roaches are my favorite.
Yes. On a sable, we can see some urate. So not uncommon for reptile people to have a little bit of urate stains on their clothing and decor.
I usually rub it on my arms before I go on dates.
Exactly.
All righty, these guys are awesome. We are going to see some wide-horned hissing cockroaches. I brought a couple of them. And these are pretty cool because a lot of people have seen hissing cockroaches, but these are the largest species, so they get pretty big. Let's see if we can get yep, there we go. So these are hissing cockroaches. And a lot of times people hear the word roach and they think of like, ew, gross, something really dirty. These guys here, they actually like it pretty clean in their environments. And they are a decomposer just like that millipede. So they're eating dead like vegetation, rotting wood, things like that in nature. And believe it or not, funny thing about myself is that I like roaches and bugs so much that my normal job, I'm actually an exterminator. So Monday through Friday, actually, yeah, if you want to toss me that, I kill bugs for a living and tell kids how cool they are on the weekend, which sounds really backwards, but that's kind of how things go. Now, these guys here have the potential to get 3.5 to 4 inches. These are some pretty big males, but I've actually produced some that are like the length of my palm before. And we know these are males because they have these cool, they look like horns almost, and they will actually headbutt with each other to fight over like log space and like girl roaches. It's, I've seen it once in a while happen where like they'll be in the cage and they'll push somebody. It's kind of neat. Now, I don't know if these guys will do it because I handle them a lot, but as their name implies, they do make a hissing noise. And they are not doing it. So, yeah. Sounds just like that. Well, hey, guys, Colin's hissing is scaring them.
Oh, sorry.
And the way that they hiss is that they have little holes in the side of their body that pushes the air out and makes that noise. Also, another interesting fact is these roaches have live babies. As a lot of times, people think of roaches laying eggs and things like that. And one myth I can debunk for you, if you step on a roach, you're not going to bring eggs home and infest your home. And that's coming from a certified pest control technician. So, yeah.
What's his name, by the way?
What's these guys' name?
Yeah, what's our cockroach's name?
Well, we usually just use one, and we Joe Rogan. They're all kind of named Joe Rogan because we have like hundreds of them.
We had a running joke years ago that all of our cockroaches were named Carl.
Yeah.
So,
also, I guess last story with these roaches that a lot of people get a kick out of. So, when I graduated college, I moved into my aunt's basement trying to figure out how to be a grown-up, and I had a huge colony of these, like, I don't know, it was like, 1,000 easy. And I came home from work one day and the lid of the cage that I built, like the silicone didn't hold and the screen fell in. So it acted like a ramp for all these roaches to climb out. And I was just like, oh no. So I kind of didn't tell my aunt until she found one in the kitchen. And she's like, oh my God, what is this giant bug, Michael? I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. I told her I lost like 20 to 40 when like half the colony was gone. So there was like hundreds of roaches in my aunt's basement. I remember going to the gym and I put my bag down and this giant roach crawled out in Anytime Fitness over in Frankfurt. I don't think anyone saw it, so I was good. I opened my sock drawer up and there's a couple of them. So it took a while to catch most of them. But my aunt still talks to me. So that's, that's a plus, right? But yeah, that I am much better at housing these guys now. It's kind of one of those, rookie mistakes of using the wrong material for the cage. But yeah, you live and you learn.
Very cool.
So I guess we could do questions. I mean, are we at that
I think
time?
we're all done.
I was trying to get all our stuff in so that we had time for questions for anyone who might have some.
Yeah, so actually we got a bunch of questions from the chat. So Kia actually asked, do anacondas regrow their teeth, or do they have rows of teeth like a great white shark would?
Yeah, so so they do have rows of teeth. I don't know about the regenerative properties of anaconda's teeth, but I do know that they do have rows of teeth, just like most snakes do. I don't know if we have. You want to grab this, Go?
Yeah, okay, I got it. Got it?
Yeah. So they do have those. Let me see here. Those inner rows in the inside there. So they've obviously got this exterior here, and then they have that row of interior. I don't know if we can see that. Here we go. You kind of see the interior ones right inside there. So yeah, that's a great question.
And what kind of prey are they eating? I mean, equipped with teeth like that?
So again, these animals have super sharp teeth that are basically enables them to pierce most hides and things. So like I was saying before, crocodilian species in South America. So that would be a caiman. Capybara, which is the largest species of rodent in the world. They're just like a big guinea pig, basically. You've got different reptile species, amphibians, fish, birds. So really anything that comes to the water is fair game for these animals if they can fit it in their mouth.
So here's a fun question from Katie Lewis. She asked, how many animals do you have? And then also, how many animals are used for education?
Sure.
So I don't know if we've ever actually taken like a solid inventory. We normally have a lineup for our regular shows, and we typically bring between 10 and 12 animals. And it's a couple bugs, some amphibians, and lizard. But I keep most of the inverts at my house, along with I do all of our frogs, toads, other amphibians. Colin and I both have turtles and tortoises and lizards and stuff, but he has most of the our giant tortoise mortis lives at his house. And then, a lot of our bigger snakes and stuff are at his house. My stuff's still kind of growing up as of right now. And
it's hard to quantify Mike's stuff because he keeps stuff in colonies. So really, if you were to count every roach, every millipede,
or every isopod, right? My colony, I could probably hide a body,
right? So, but yeah, so I'd probably say at my house, maybe 50 to 60 different animals. So,
and people are really interested.
Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say bug tarantulas, scorpions, roaches, giant centipedes. I think I have 4 or 5 different species of isopods. And then what am I missing? Yeah, we can move on.
So as far as the toad goes, a bunch of people were wondering, how do you keep a toad? Is it a good pet?
I think toads make great pets. Those guys there, I have. Most people, I don't know if anyone knows what these are, but they're called Laguna tubs. They use them for fish a lot of times, but I have a special lid that was built for it, and the toads live in it's 4x3 big tub with deep bedding. But a lot of times you can keep them. I've done vision cages. A lot of the exoterra tanks work great. Just your standard aquarium. Just depends on the size of the toad you're looking at. But the smooth-sided toads work great. There's something that Josh's Frogs captive breeds. I have a couple at home that I'm raising up, some little guys, and they'll eventually get the size of Trevor there. But yeah, just kind of do your research on which type of toad you're getting. But the smooth-sideds are great, great pet toads.
I feel like I hear a lot of different things about handling amphibians. So, what's really your protocol as far as handling a toad?
We have several of them to not stress them out. When we're doing presentations, either Colin or myself are typically the only person holding the toads. We keep them on wet paper towels. I do know a lot of places online will recommend using gloves or don't hold them at all. We've been pretty solid. Our toads are going okay. Anytime you handle them, there's going to be some type of stress, but that's kind of why we do certain things like rotate through the toads that we use so that they don't get overly stressed. I try to make sure that they're always on kind of a moist paper towel, or sometimes, if I have a couple presentations throughout the day, I'll change out the paper towels and rinse them maybe or something in between shows so they have fresh water and in their little traveling container.
And we always try to be clear too. Anytime we do hold amphibians, we try to avoid people holding the frog because their skin's a little bit more porous, even though that they do create that waxy film over their skin to kind of help them not dry out and whatnot. But toads have a little bit more of a durable skin. They don't absorb things as fast as like a frog would. But we're always clear when we do these presentations, hey, we're going to minimize the amount of handling with these animals throughout the program, because we know that our hands are sterile, they're clean, we don't have any chemicals on them. But when we're doing shows in the summertime, we have so many variables of sunscreen, bug spray, hand sanitizers, things like that.
Kids are dirty.
Yeah, kids are dirty.
Yeah.
So yeah, but again, I think it is important if you are a toad owner. Again, minimize the amount of handling with your toad, but don't be afraid to hold it, because again, they are animals that are fairly easy to hold, and they do make very rewarding pets.
That's our opinion. We'll say it too.
Our opinion,
there's someone out there probably with their head exploding right now.
Sure.
But yeah, I guess next question.
Sure.
So obviously that was about handling a toad, but on the other end, millipedes. I mean, obviously you were handling that millipede. Are they harmless to humans though? If I don't wash my hands or something and I touch my eyes, that could be a problem. Or if I were to start eating, a lot of millipedes secrete stuff, various chemicals that if you're, touching your face, your eyes, you're probably gonna have a bad day where your eyes swell up. Or it probably depends on how much of it you get, if that makes sense. And usually with the millipedes, if I'm doing a bug presentation, I try to have some kind of wipes or whatever, because I know when I pick up that millipede, the first thing it does is just go to the bathroom. After that, then it's kind of cool with walking around and stuff like that. But it's always just kind of, be cognizant of what you're doing. If you're holding something that secretes some weird stuff out of its skin, wipe your hands off before going to the next animal, or don't let, a kid hold it before it, kind of thing. If just be cognizant of what's going on.
Right. And there are many really good pet millipedes, like ivory millipedes, scarlet millipedes, bumblebee millipedes. There are a lot smaller options. Again, you could purchase from Josh's Frog. So
yeah, they have everything.
They do really have everything awesome. So
because bugs are becoming a bigger, more popular as pets. I mean, they don't take up as much space.
African giant millipedes at this point, though, are very hard to get. You can really only get captive breds, because they did shut down importation of those animals a few years ago. So.
Yeah, and I mean, it takes people like you guys at least to get people exposed to these animals and let them know that something like a millipede can be a pet, because I don't think people have that general reaction to them at first.
Yeah, or you get a lot of too, when we're doing bug shows, I mean, there's parents that it's hard to get over that idea. At least I used to talk with my mom about it, why she wouldn't let me keep stuff, and it's just hard to be that's a bug in the house.
Right.
That's not okay. And kind of just talking hey, little Timmy can't have a dog. Let's get him this millipede that he likes to just watch it sit in dirt, right. And it's kind of cool because you can millipede with some isopods, springtails, you get a little thing going there, and you can learn about so many different, things in environmentally. Just kind of looking at a little container with several bugs and some good soil and stuff, watching them kind of break things down and things like that.
Absolutely. So we had Maddie's video asking, what was both of yours first animal?
I'm assuming she's probably thinking reptile. What really got me into it was I had captured a redback salamander, and then all of a sudden, I got hit with the reptile bug. I was like, oh my God, I need this, and I wanted to go off of that. But it all started with that salamander that I probably illegally poached out of somewhere because I was a kid. I need this. But yeah.
Cool. Mine was a corn snake, albino corn snake. So for all your corn snake needs, Port City Pets. But yeah, no, corn snakes are really great. First pets, actually, I got it from Chicago Reptile House, Brian Potter's place in Orland Park. So really awesome pets. Unofficially, I think my parents tried when I was much younger. I think I started off when I was 6 or 7 with that corn snake. But before that, they got me what they called a box turtle, which is really a Russian tortoise, and you can't keep those aquatically. So thanks, Mom and Dad, for starting me off on the right foot.
So I think this is interesting because at least people in the chat they're able to get so much more information these days. And obviously you guys both kind of started off on the wrong foot. Obviously, don't take animals out of the wild. Don't set up a Russian tortoise in an aquatic setup. So I think that's good.
It wasn't fully aquatic, but yeah.
So I think that's a good, at least barometer as far as even if you start somewhere, you can always educate yourself and care for your animals.
Absolutely. Yes,
Yeah.
everyone starts somewhere, and obviously
We're still learning.
We're still learning. So again, if anyone says that they're done learning, they know it all, you should probably unsubscribe from their channel or not talk to them anymore.
Yeah, that's pretty harsh, but
oh, sorry. Right.
So thank you guys so much. First of all, Colin, Mike of Crosstown Exotics, thank you guys so much for doing a presentation for CritterCon today. So if anyone wants to reach out to you or check out shows locally, hopefully when all this blows over, where can they reach out to you and check you guys out?
Sure. So you can obviously find us at www.crosstownexotics.com if you'd like to book a show. That's probably the best way. We've got an inquiry section, or just email us. And then also on the social medias, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. We throw a couple videos out every now and then. TikTok now. So again, if you guys want to see some awesome TikToks with reptiles in them, you know where to go. So awesome. Again, we really appreciate it. And yeah, we're happy to be able to kick off CritterCon Live, the first official.
Absolutely. I appreciate you guys. Everyone says thank you in the chat. So
no problem.
I appreciate you, as well as guys down below in the description, there is actually a donation link in which you can send money directly to all the educators here today. A lot of them are unable, actually all of them are unable to do their presentations that they would normally do, and therefore their businesses are suffering in this time, and they still need to care for their animals. So that would greatly help. You guys already have helped just by buying a ticket. So I really, really appreciate that. And guess what? We have our next presenter up now. So you may know our next presenter from YouTube, you know, a little channel with about 1.7 million subscribers. So Emily of Snake Discovery, first of all, she has some amazing animals, and she is going to bring you around the world and show you a bunch of really amazing animals. Emily, thank you so much for being here, and welcome to CritterCon.
Hey, thank you again for having me today. Again, my name is Emily. I am with Snake Discovery, and you know, we're just going to jump right on in and get started so that we can see as many reptiles as possible, because I brought a lot. You can't see them on screen, but there's a lot of reptiles here today for you. I will say right away, though, that we did not bring Rex, our alligator. If you're familiar with her, she's kind of sassy and hard to, her tail can get whipping sometimes. So we didn't bring her. However, the fun part about today is that we are going to travel around the world. I brought at least one reptile from every continent they live on, which is all of them except for Antarctica, of course. And you get to choose the route that we take today. So I need you to comment which continent you would like us to visit first, whether North America, South America, for the younger kids, Africa, Europe, Asia, or Australia. Let me know which one you want to go to first in the comments. Now, since we have a wide range of ages here today, some of the information will be for the younger viewers, some will be for the older viewers, so I hope everybody learned something new today. So
Asia was the first comment.
Asia was the first one. Okay, well, you guys are starting big. All right, well, go big or go home, right? My snake that I brought from Asia is over here. And this is one of the world's largest species of snakes. Maybe you'll get to guess it in the comments before I even say what she is. Here she is. We're going to start out big. I love it. Good choice with Asia. This is a Burmese Python, specifically a granite or albino granite Burmese Python. Her name is Olive Oil, or we just call her Olive for short. And these are an amazing snake. They sadly, I mean, they live in Southeast Asia, where they are sadly listed as a vulnerable species because they are overhunted for their skin and for their meat. However, in Florida, in the Everglades, they are doing quite well. You've probably heard about the Burmese Pythons taking over the Everglades. If you haven't, there's tens of thousands, literally, of Burmese Pythons that are eating just about everything in their path down in the Everglades. Now, some of the Burms we know were contributed by being released pets in Florida. However, that's not what started the initial invasion of this species in that ecosystem. What happened was back in 1992, there was a hurricane, Hurricane Andrew, which destroyed a reptile breeding facility just north of the Everglades, and it released approximately 200 Burmese pythons into the wild. Well, now they are all breeding size if they weren't already, and they are just reproducing because they have no natural predators down there. So now there's an estimated between, I mean, the numbers change a lot because they're hard to count since they're so secretive and hard to find. But there's an estimated 10 to 100,000 Burmese pythons in the Everglades nowadays. The problem is they, like I said, they're big snakes, so they eat just about anything they can catch. There's virtually no more rabbits or raccoons or foxes left in the wild down there because they eat them all. And they even eat things as large as alligators and the natural bobcats down there. So there's a huge issue right now on how to eradicate this species. They host python hunts and contests every year. They just had one in January of 2020 where they, I think, got 80 of them at least out of the population. But I honestly think it's too late to solve this problem anymore. There's just too many of these snakes. Unfortunately, they're a really good snake to have as a pet. I mean, it's too bad that they're invading in the Everglades because they make wonderful pet snakes as long as you have enough room for them. Now, this one, being an albino, is not the coloration you'd see in the wild, both in Asia and in the Everglades. You're going to see the brown and tan colored Burmese pythons, but this one is just stunning. We're very excited to have her. We got her last summer, I'd say, and she's going to be part of one of our future breeding projects. So now, before I put her back, I need you to start commenting which continent we should visit next. Started with Asia, started with a big snake. These get to about 12 to 14, closer to 12 feet long for males. And like most snake species, females get considerably larger. Females can grow to about 18 to even 20 feet long and weigh up to 200 pounds. So this is a very large species of snake. Where should we go next?
They all said Africa.
Africa? Oh, man, okay. Really? Apparently people are having drag races outside of their facilities. All right, I'm going to set her aside, and we are going to visit Africa next. I brought a unique snake from Africa. What's so special about this snake is they have no teeth. This is an African egg-eating snake. They're amazing little reptiles. I love these guys. They don't have teeth because you don't need teeth to catch an egg in a bird nest. Instead of teeth, they have these bony projections in the back of their throat, which they use to push eggs against to crack them open. And then they drink the juices from those eggs and they crunch up that shell and they just spit it back out. This is her first program, so she's a little bit skittish here, but that's right. This is good practice for her. Now there's several different types of egg eaters that people will keep as pets. This one in particular is the Daisy peltis gansey for anybody interested. But if you think about their eating habits, they only eat bird eggs. They don't eat reptile eggs. And do birds nest year long? No, birds have nesting seasons. So egg-eating snakes can only eat when birds are reproducing. So they often go an enormous amount of time, sometimes upwards of 6 or 8 months without eating anything, just because there's no eggs or no food available. So really cool snake here. They are also pretty small, which makes them even easier to maintain as pets. They only get around 3 feet max, I'd say. However, she's big enough to eat chicken eggs, although our other egg eaters still can only eat quail eggs. So since they have a specialized diet, it can be difficult to care for these because you have to have a reliable source of fresh bird eggs. They have a really good sense of smell, so they will only eat the fresh bird eggs. They, of course, don't want to eat a partially developed egg because it's hard to drink a baby bird if you think about it. So they only eat fresh eggs that have not yet developed. Okay, I need you guys to start thinking of the next continent before I put her back. The last thing I'll say about egg eaters is they are really cool snakes. However, because it's hard to find a good source of eggs, I wouldn't recommend them for a beginning snake keeper because babies, which are really the only captive bred option you're going to have since most adults are wild caught, babies only eat finch eggs. So you need to have a good source of finch eggs in order to feed them. Where are we going next?
North America.
North America. All right. Usually when I do programs, North America is at the very end because nobody thinks of their own continent. So for North America, I brought an adorable snake. Where should I put this? Over here. I brought what's probably my favorite species of snake. This is a Western hognose snake. They're also, I mean, they've recently been changed. Their common name has been changed to the Plains hognose snake. If you want to be technically correct, you should call them a Plains hognose, but everyone still calls them a Western. So just kind of some food for thought. Now, the hognose snakes are, of course, named after their noses, which are pushed up to look like, it makes them look like they have a little pig nose. However, they use that nose, not for smelling, of course, since they smell with their tongue. They use their nose for digging and burrowing purposes. And they can dig pretty impressively through like thick grass or even through dirt itself. And they prefer to live in well-drained prairies. So kind of like dry, sandy prairies is their preferred habitat. Now, what they're most known for is their defense mechanism. I'm sure a lot of you watching already know what the hognose snake does when it's scared. But if you don't, when these guys feel threatened, the first thing they do is they stretch out the skin on the sides of their neck to try to look big and scary, to try to like intimidate you. And it makes them kind of look like what a cobra does, even though they're not imitating a cobra. It just happens to be pretty similar. This is an example of an eastern hognose snake. This is the eastern, this is the plains or western. They're both native to where I live, which is why I like to focus on them. The eastern here has his skin stretched out in that threat display, but if that doesn't work and the hognose feels extremely threatened, then it gets pretty funny because it will roll over onto its back and open up its mouth and stick out its tongue and pretend to be dead. He's like, oh no, don't eat me, Mr. Fox. I just died. This is terrible timing. I'm not tasty anymore. And you can see he has his tongue sticking out and everything. Sometimes they'll even pop a blood vessel in their mouth and they'll bleed on purpose to really look dead. And the best part is, if you see one pretending to be dead in front of you, and we're lucky enough to have these in our backyards here, if you see one playing dead and you pick it up and you flip it so it's right side up again, it'll go right back onto its back to assure you it's dead. They're very committed to their roles of being drama queens. All right, I'm going to set her back. Her name is Bacon, by the way. She's the hognose I bring with me to programs all the time. And I was hoping she wouldn't be in food mode because it's been a while since we did a program. And I'm impressed. You did well, Bacon. Good job. All right, where should we go next? What are they saying? Have you seen some continents?
First one I saw was South America.
South America it is. All right, let's go to South America. I have a clue for you for our snake from South America. Let's see if you can guess what kind of snake this is. It's not a coffee snake or anything. I wish I had a teeny snake to like pull out though. Here's his shed skin. Can you ID this snake by his shed? Look at the pattern there. I'll hold it up a little bit closer. You might see saddles there, huh? Okay, I bet there's some guesses in the comments. I'm going to pull them out.
A lot of people guessing Anaconda.
Anaconda's a great guess, guys. Ooh, maybe rattlesnake would be a good guess if anyone's guessed that. Let's see what he is. This is a boa constrictor. This is Doug. He is our male, just common boa constrictor, or BCI for those who are a little bit older watching. Now, these are kind of cool. They're a really cool snake. They don't lay eggs like pythons do. Boas give live birth. And wow, he's checking everything out around him. He is an adult male. He really won't get much bigger. But if he was a girl, like most snakes, the females do get considerably larger. He's about 7.5 feet last time we measured him. I had some kids measure him out. But if he was a female, he could be, or she could be expected to grow around 8 to 9 feet. We actually have a recently acquired rescue boa, and she is 10 feet long, but she was power fed. So it's not necessarily a good thing always if they become massive, because it might mean that they're overweight of sorts. Now, this snake has also been found in Florida in the wild, and unlike the Burmese python, which was started from a hurricane, like releasing a lot of individuals, the boa constrictor population that's found just outside of Miami, we're pretty sure are just released pet boa constrictors. Now, the big debate is, do we eradicate the boa constrictors completely from near Miami, or do we focus all of our efforts and funding for the Burmese pythons, which are a bigger issue? That one, we don't have an answer for. Florida doesn't have an answer for it. So it's more food for thought for you guys. What would you do if you were in charge of fisheries and wildlife and you had this dilemma where there are, say, 100 or so, I think it was, boa constrictors in Miami? Do you take care of those now, or do you instead focus on the Burmese pythons? So there's a dinner conversation for you. I'm going to set Doug back, and he is, by the way, about he's 16. I don't know. I think he's about 18 years old now. Actually, you're an old man, kind of. I'm gonna set him back and choose another continent. It takes me a couple seconds to set him back in his bin here, so bear with me. I think so far we've gone to North America, South America, Africa, and Asia. So where should we go next?
It's pretty split.
It's
Ed's
split?
gonna make the decision here.
It's exciting.
Europe.
Europe, okay. I brought a mystery reptile from Europe. You're gonna like this. I'm not even gonna tell you what kind of reptile this is because it's so weird. Here she is. I can't tell you her name either because it'll give it away. This one I'm just gonna hold close to the camera because you gotta see those features. Do you guys know all the differences between snakes and lizards? Look at her face. You'll see some of those differences right here, especially a little black hole there, and that is her ear. Snakes don't have ears, guys. This is not a snake. This is called a legless lizard. Her name is Legolas. That's why I couldn't really tell you her name. We have one at home named Lieutenant Dan, but he's not as friendly, so he had to stay at home. Anyway, they are obviously named the legless lizard because they have no legs, but they're also called the glass lizard quite often because it was once believed that if you held one of these animals, it would shatter like glass into exactly 100 pieces. And then when it wasn't threatened anymore, it would put all of its pieces back together and slither away. Obviously, that's not true. So there's a lot of myths out there about reptiles that are definitely not true. But have you seen the Harry Potter movie, The Chamber of Secrets? If you remember, down in the chamber, there's this large reptile that they call a basilisk. And according to the Harry Potter verse, that is the king of serpents, the basilisk is. But if you watch that scene in the movie, the basilisk has ear holes, and it has the same scales on its back as it does on its belly, and it blinks its eyes. Snakes don't blink. So it is obviously just an imposter. It's not a snake at all. It's just a big legless lizard. And one more thing before we move on. So I need you to pick the last remaining continent. Help me out, guys. One more thing about legless lizards is that, for the older crowd, I suppose, have you seen the Indiana Jones movie, the Raiders of the Lost Ark? Do you remember the snake pit scene? They actually used almost exclusively legless lizards. They cheated. They didn't use snakes at all. I almost wonder if it's because it's less risky to have a pile of legless lizards together since they live in large numbers in the wild than it would have been to use a pile of snakes, just because cannibalistic reasons. We're going to set her back, and I hope they've been guessing it. They've been guessing Australia. I sure hope. Antarctica. Yeah, right, guys. I wish I had a reptile from Antarctica.
Australia it is.
Australia it is. Okay, we brought, let's see, actually 2 snakes from Australia. We'll see if we get to them. Well, yeah, I have a way that we can get to them. This is a python from Australia. This is a Woma Python, W-O-M-A, just a Woma Python. Now, these are a cool snake. They only get about 5 to 6-ish feet, so they don't get terribly large. But they live in a very hot environment in Australia. Have you ever walked on a hot sandy beach and it was like so hot on your feet, you had to pick them up quick before they burned? That's kind of what this snake does in the hot sandy environment it lives in Australia. They're primarily nocturnal, but if they do come out during a hot day, they'll only touch a few inches of their belly to the hot sand at a time, and they stretch way out. Instead of kind of slithering their whole body, they kind of stretch out and walk, so to speak, so that they don't burn themselves. Now these, along with, I'm going to take out my last snake here. Oh yeah, you want to take her out? Her name is Inky. Some of you guys know what this snake is. It's another snake from Australia, and we're working on socializing her for programs. This is a Blackhead Python. They're very closely related to the Womas. You can see they look very similar here, actually. It just looks like you took a Woma Python and you dunked its head in black ink. Like, that's really what it looks like to me, anyway. Some of them have kind of these darker colors like this, too. Now, these are the only two species of pythons that don't have heat-sensing pits on their lips. We don't know for sure why this is, but we suspect that it's because they eat a lot of reptiles in the wild. And reptiles are cold-blooded, so they're not really going to show up on heat-sensing pits or in infrared vision. So they don't necessarily need those pits, and so they just, over time, lost them. But these, they're really cool snakes. It's too bad they're not more readily available in the States, but since you can't export them from Australia, I can understand why they are kind of tough to find. But now I think, I don't want to go over time. Are we? Okay, we should probably wrap it up. I could go on and on and on, but I think we're going to wrap it up here and we'll move on to Q&A so that I don't push us behind schedule. And we have officially traveled around the world.
Awesome, Emily. Thank you so much for bringing us around the world and showing us some amazing snakes. I want to include the fact that everyone was so incredibly excited just to see Ed's hands. So shout out to Ed's hands.
He lives! He lives!
So Emily, one of the questions from the chat was, are black-headed pythons or womas poisonous?
No, they are not venomous, but they can eat venomous species of snakes because they are immune to their venom. So they're just really specialized reptile eaters, which is so cool. But they themselves are not venomous. They're constrictors.
Awesome. And Animal Lover asks, are hognose a good beginner reptile?
Hognoses can be a great beginner reptile as long as you get one that eats reliably. That's probably the toughest part about hogs, is that they are notoriously picky eaters because they eat amphibians in the wild, so it can be tough to get them to actually eat rodents in captivity. When we produce a clutch of hognose eggs, I have some that take 6 months or longer before they're reliably eating. So I suggest doing a hognose or getting a hognose for your second snake, because one of the reasons why they don't like to eat is also because they're high-strung and they just get stressed out really easily. And your first snake, you're going to want to hold all the time, most likely. I know I did for my first pet snake. So it's just hard to leave a hognose snake alone enough for it to eat. So that's why I'd have it be your second snake. So you still have your first snake to hold while the other hognose adjusts and starts eating for you.
Awesome. And everyone was super excited to see Doug. Someone even asked Doug to marry them, which I don't know how that would work.
That's awesome. I'm sure he'd say yes. Just feed him a rabbit. You can bribe him.
But they were asking, how big do males and females get of boa constrictors? I guess that in particular would be the Boa Constrictor Imperator, which is the animal that you had out.
Yeah, yep, I had the Imperator or Imperator. They get around 6-ish feet for males, typically. My male here, I'll take him out. I actually wanted to hold him a bit more anyway. Doug here is 7.5 feet, so he is unusually large for a male, but it's not unheard of. Females, however, grow closer to around 8, maybe 9 feet. And again, I have one strange individual that is 10 feet long. But yeah, this guy, here's Doug. I'll take him out again for the rest of this. He's easier to see on camera. Hey, Dougie.
And do their pattern, I mean, does that do anything for them in the wild?
Does what, sorry, do anything?
People were just wondering if the pattern is that way in any advantageous way, I mean, to the animal.
Yeah, it's just general cryptic coloration, which is just a type of camouflage that helps them blend into their backgrounds. If you think of a boa in a tree, they're not going to do, they're such big animals as adults. They spend a lot of their time on the forest floor. And then if you look at a forest floor, there's a lot of brown coloration between the dirt and the fallen dead leaves that are decaying. So that just helps them blend in a bit more.
Awesome. And Emily Lyle asked, do baby snakes lose their teeth?
Baby snake, yeah, baby snakes. I mean, snakes will shed their teeth throughout their life. Usually when they're eating meals, so it ends up going down with the food. But babies and adults alike, yeah, they shed and regrow their teeth.
Awesome. And then also a bunch of people are asking about egg-eating snakes. So is that an animal that is good for a pet owner or to keep as a pet?
If you are experienced, then I'd say go for an egg-eating snake. But in general, I would not recommend one. It's why we don't film with them much anymore, because we were getting the wrong type of exposure for them in videos, because everybody wanted one because they don't eat mice, which I completely understand. But egg eaters, if they're an adult for sale, they're 99% of the time wild caught. So then you're dealing with a wild caught animal that might have parasites, and it might just not acclimate to captivity well or at all. Babies, on the other hand, you could find captive bred, but they only eat fresh finch eggs. So then you have to buy pet finches and hope that they're females and they produce enough to keep up with the diet of your baby egg eater. So I just overall would not recommend it for a beginner. Leave that to more of like an intermediate or an advanced snake down the line.
And So Cute Kittens 99 asked, can egg-eating snakes, and I guess this applies to an adult, can they eat chicken eggs?
Yes, the female that I had with me, she has taken one chicken egg for me before. She's a little diva though, and she prefers quail eggs. I'd assume they're just easier for them to eat. But yes, they can. Females can get big enough for chicken eggs. It's just unusual to get one that's that big and willing to eat them.
Awesome. And then we also have a question. How do morphs originate? I mean, what was the first morph?
I don't know what the first morph in like a snake in general was. I'd assume albinism. That's pretty commonly found outside. But morphs are just found by usually coming across a snake in the wild that just looks different. I mean, ball pythons are still, unfortunately, imported by the thousands every year by breeders who are hoping to find the next morph out of a wild-caught individual. And then you just breed that into future generations, and it becomes a morph that's readily available in captivity. Not saying it can't happen just by random happenstance with breeding in captivity. That can happen too. But I think most of them are found, like scaleless and albino. Those were all originally wild-caught specimens.
Yeah, I don't know if people realize that there's often spontaneous mutations, even in wild animals. And there's a certain rate that happens at. And sometimes you get lucky and find them, or sometimes you get lucky and it happens in your collection. Yeah,
exactly. Just have to roll the dice right.
Yeah, absolutely. So Mortal Lint Roller asked, how big are Burmese pythons and how big are their clutches?
They can lay 50 to 100 eggs at a time for large females. It depends on how often they eat as babies. Like some breeders will power feed their babies to make them as big as possible and breeding size as soon as possible. It's not recommended because it shortens their lifespan, but they can grow upwards of 20 feet long. And I think I mentioned it earlier, they can weigh up to 200 pounds. So they are a big species of snake. Not the largest on planet Earth, but still an impressive size.
Yeah, I guess on the subject, people are asking if you ever considered breeding duck.
Oh, we've thought about it. We're still on the fence. Like the female we rescued is so obese. We're considering breeding her once to Doug just to strip a layer of fat off of her. It might help with her diet, honestly. But I don't know if we need to do it more than that because there's a lot of boas available or like in rescues right now, or normal colored boas. If we found like a fancy morph, I would totally be up for breeding him. But just normals, we'd definitely limit ourselves.
Awesome. So a bunch of people ask, how is the zoo / museum / park, whatever you're building over there? I mean, where are you in the process?
I can show you right now. We're filming. What? Oh, I'm walking? Yeah. Okay. I'm going to walk. We're filming at our new facility. It's all a big mess right now because we got all the destruction done and then COVID hit. So we have not been able to start rebuilding things after it's all been torn down. So we're getting there. We're still waiting for building permits, but thankfully now that the city is up and moving or running again, it sounds like, we might be able to start progressing again. So we were originally thinking about opening in June, and right now we were supposed to be building our enclosures for the zoo they're all done at Universal Rocks, but our flooring isn't done because all contract work was stopped. So now we think we might open closer to August, September. It all depends on when COVID clears up.
Now, is this going to be just like a reptile zoo type of thing that anyone can come into?
Yeah, it'll be kind of a conglomerate of a few different things. The front portion of the facility will be retail. So we'll have reptile supplies, feeders, reptiles themselves for sale too. And then if you go further into the building, I'd say about half of the building, the middle section, is going to be reserved for a zoo or a reptile display. And that will be, I don't know what the cost will be. It'll just be a small charge to it. Go in and see everything in huge, like naturalistic environments. We're so excited. Rex is going to live here too. And then further into the building than that, there's a classroom so that we can do birthday parties in-house or school programs and then bring kids on a tour to the zoo afterwards. And we'll have room for offices, rodent breeding, and reptile breeding projects too. So there's a lot that's going to go on here.
That's amazing. And we all look forward to it. And if people want to learn more about that project or just check out what's going on, or maybe they want to see your show when everything clears up, where can they find you?
We are most active on YouTube, especially nowadays, since I'm not doing in-person programs at libraries right now. So YouTube, Snake Discovery. You can also check us out on Twitter. I don't really keep an eye on the Facebook page much. So we always try to reach back or email back or respond back to people, but we have kind of crazy lives right now. So I'm sorry if we're not able to respond to everybody. But I say YouTube and snakediscovery.com is another great resource for additional information.
Awesome. So Emily and special guest Ed's Hands, thank you so much for coming on today. It was great. It was great seeing your presentation. It was amazing. And once again, thanks for taking part in CritterCon.
Thank you. Thanks for having me today.
All right, guys. So that was Emily of Snake Discovery. I hope you guys enjoyed it. A lot of really awesome animals from around the world. Now, our next guests are actually a husband and wife team, Bill and Teresa of Coal Black Exotics, and they are in Illinois. And they also work on the board of a reptile rescue called Friends of Scales. So if you guys want to check out that as well, they do a lot of really great work, you know, in addition to this, educating the general public, as well as they're taking some of those rescue animals, rehabilitating them, and then using them for education programs as well. So please allow me to introduce Bill and Teresa of Coal Black Exotics.
Hi, my name is Teresa. This is Bill. We are from Coal Black Exotics, like he said. And we are doing our presentation portion on kind of giants that we keep reptile-wise. We are starting today with some tegus. Now, these guys are really common pets. And as you heard from Emily actually explained a little bit of the invasive issue of Florida. But these guys are from South America, and they are actually considered invasive with the same issue that she was talking about before. We brought two of them. One is a female. This lady is named Nabisco, and this is double stuff. Like Joe was saying, we actually do a lot of stuff with a rescue, and we brought these guys, and we wanted to start with these guys because they are both rescues, and they have a little bit of issues with their bodies. So if Bill wants to bring up double stuff, you might be able to see that double stuff has a little bit of an overbite. He also, when he came into the rescue, was a little bit obese. So his owners didn't think that they were able to take care of him very well. So we got to use him for our reptile shows as an ambassador animal for the rescue, and also as a little bit of an educational point. Because reptiles are cold-blooded, they end because they sometimes can be very simple pets to take care of. People like to get them for their kids and maybe don't know how to take care of them as well because they hear things online that maybe aren't true, like with the tegus specifically, that they can eat things like cat food and dog food. And you'll see from Nabisco that she has a little bit of a hump on her back, and that is due to malnutrition, really. She has a calcium growth on the back there. Both of these guys, like I said, are from South America. They eat both vegetables, fruits, but their main source of food is protein from bugs and insects and anything that they can catch. Our guys, we tend to feed parts of animals that my husband hunts or some of our friends hunt, but we also provide them with lots of dandelions and greens and things out of your yard. So in that aspect, they do actually make pretty okay pets. But this is our two black and white tegus.
So
we'll try to both get close. One of the main ways to tell the difference between boys and girls is if you see Teresa's holding double stuff, look at his big old fat jowls, right? That's how you show off for girls and how you try to display for other males to show how big and bad you are. So Nabisco is an old lady, so she's actually pretty close in size to double stuff. Males are typically, males are typically the bigger of the two, but as they get older, everybody gets a little bit bigger. And it's really those jowls, right? So that's how you can tell he's a big old boy trying to show off for his lady friends. And they're both super chill. He's obviously resting his big fat chin on her shoulder now, so he doesn't care.
But something I want to mention is if you notice his tongue is sticking in and out, they have a very cool tongue. It's very similar to a snake's tongue. It is split down the middle and they have two sides. Each side can independently smell because they, like snakes, use their tongue to smell. And so I'm letting him stick his tongue out. I hope you guys can see it. So our next thing we're going to get out is also one of our giants. And this guy is Pen. Now, Pen is an Argus monitor. You want to talk about him?
So, Argus monitors are an Australian grassland lizard, and they have, Teresa's a little bit shorter than me, but hopefully you guys can see on the camera, a big old thick tail, right? And Teresa's holding him up off the ground, and he actually, well, he's covering her face. So what he's actually doing is he's holding on with his feet at her hips, and he's holding himself upright, and his front feet aren't actually pushing on her shoulders. He's just standing up. So they live in very tall grasslands, and they use that big thick tail like a tripod. They have very strong back legs to stand up on, and that's how they see to make sure they're safe, and also how they look for prey. Now his front feet, he's puffing out at me now. His front feet are also very strong because they're really good diggers. And with that tail, you don't want me to touch your butt? With that tail, it has a little bit of a keel. So they also are really good swimmers. Argus monitors are kind of interesting in that they're an all-around physical animal. So most lizards have a keeled tail, means they're great swimmers. And then typically they have a slender body. They're not so great at digging. Most lizards that are diggers have big built upper bodies, and then they're not big enough or not slim enough to be good swimmers. This lizard is all of the above. Big and built, he can stand up, he can dig, he can do all those things, but he also has a tail to allow him to swim and escape if he needs to. So they're really awesome. If you can kind of see, let's see if we can go this way a little bit, how his face is pointed almost like a beak. Really big eyes on the side, very prevalent on his face. They are visual predators, so they're always looking above that grass, standing on their tripod, trying to see, and then they chase and get whatever it is they want to eat. And monitor lizards are a really awesome animal in that they are very intelligent. So this particular lizard was owned by a woman before coming to us, and he is a boy. So when he first came to us, one of the things that we do when we first get new animals is we want to introduce them to our family. We do shows for kids. It has to be an animal that's okay being around children and noise and things like that. This particular animal got up, climbed up, decided to sit right on top of Teresa, who smells just like a girl, and then turn around and puffed up at me because he was protecting his new lady friend. Because he'd spent his whole life with only a single lady friend, who obviously was shorter than I was and had a higher pitched voice. And I was the person who transported him. So I look different, I sound different, I smell different. I actually smell like a male. Like a lot of very large monitor lizards can be sex dependent. So just like if you see a lot of zookeepers when they talk about keeping primates, you can have issues there with the gender of the zookeeper. Sometimes the animals can get aggressive if they're trying to defend their mates or they're in breeding season, and those different things can come into play.
Monitor lizards can sometimes be the same way. They know who you are, they know feeding time, they understand schedules. Penn understands our tongs. He knows what color our gloves are. So if we have gloves and we're trying to move things, he doesn't come by us because the yellow gloves means we're going to pick up water and do stuff. He doesn't want to be bothered. If we have the big silver tongs, he knows it's food time, so he'll come wait by the door and look at the tongs because he knows that that is what's happening. So monitor lizards are awesome, very visual predators, very intelligent. The family as a whole is everything from little tiny dwarf guys in Australia all the way to Komodo dragons. So there's a huge variety of monitor lizards. Some make really awesome pets, typically the smaller ones. And then when you get into the rescue situation or educational things, like we have a zoo set up, we get the bigger things for display, and they're a little bit harder to house, but it's really rewarding because of their intelligence level.
You'll also see that Penn gets to wear a costume, kind of, when he does shows. Because he is so big, I hold him during a lot of things so that he does have the capability of being able to see up and around and make sure that he is out of harm's way. But I also have him on a harness. And the harness is because these guys, funnily enough, can almost leash train. He doesn't command like a dog, but you can definitely keep him on a leash. So that's what this is. If you have a question about it, I figured somebody would.
And I don't know if you guys saw when I brought him out, but I'm actually going to put him away. We're going to switch lizards, but it's a safe way to transport him. I support his tail and his butt, and then I'm using the harness to support his front legs so that I'm not injuring his legs and his body is supported. And then he is using his tail to try and keep himself balanced. So it's just a safe way to keep him upright. Now you guys get to stare at a blank screen for a minute. So we are going to do another monitor lizard, and we're going to kind of stick to the giant theme. What Teresa is getting out is Lord Farquaad, our Asian water monitor. And he's 2 years old, so he's a little bit smaller than Penn. But Asian water monitors are the third largest species of monitor lizard in the world. And this particular animal came from the Wildlife Discovery Center, which is a zoo here in Illinois. And as you can see, Teresa has had a bit of a costume change. So she is now wearing a long sleeve hooded sweatshirt and leather gloves. It's not because our water monitor is aggressive. He's actually super cool. It's because he has really serious claws. So like we talked about with the Argus monitor, they're wonderful diggers. His tail, if you can see how it's curled here against her shirt, really keeled and really thin. And his body in general is much thinner than Penn's. So he is a wonderful swimmer. But when they're young, one of the easiest ways to get away from predators and things that are trying to eat you is to run straight up a tree. So their claws are phenomenal. And we try not to trim those because we have large naturalistic enclosures in our zoo, and we want them to work that out on their own. One of the main problems for reptiles in captivity can be obesity, because feeding them is one of the fun things, and it's something that we like to do. So we feed them an appropriate diet, and then we have an enclosure that's large enough and has the right environmental factors that they work off those calories. So we monitor his nails. We make sure that they're healthy and that there's no breaks or cracks or anything, but we don't trim them very often because we want him to climb and dig and swim and do all the things a monitor should do so that he stays nice and slim like he is and very muscular. Penn's the same way. He's more built like a digger, so he looks like he's carrying a little more body fat, but he's actually just very strong in his upper body because he digs all the time. And then we make him climb up on a platform in order to eat so that he keeps himself healthy.
You're out of the video now, bud. I'm good.
And Lord Farquaad is going to climb all the way down the tree to the ground. So Teresa's going to let him back in the box. So that's going to take her a couple of seconds. So while she's doing that, I'm going to switch to a giant snake. And I'm actually really glad that Emily used her berm. We have gone the opposite direction for giant pythons. And what we have is a reticulated python. And this particular snake is a color morph and pattern change called Tiger. So it was one of the first reticulated python morphs that was imported. And like Joe and Emily were talking about in the Q&A section, it was a random mutation that was then bred by captive producers. And it's now a really common base morph in a ton of stuff with reticulated pythons. This actually is considered the heterozygous form. There's a super form where if you bred 2 of these together, you would get a fully striped animal. So that would be homozygous. So there's 2 copies of the tiger gene makes a fully striped snake. And if you only have a single copy, if you guys can kind of see down the back there, it has a stripe, but it's still broken up with the original saddled pattern. Kind of similar to Doug the boa constrictor, just stretched out a little bit more. So we'll back up a little bit. Teresa can take this end.
So
we'll take this end.
retics are considered the longest species of snake around. Now ours, her name's Morticia. I don't know if we said that.
We didn't, sorry.
Ours is still young, like he said. So she's not super long. So when you think of a long snake, she does look a little bit long. But when you think of a long snake, you're thinking of huge, like an anaconda or even a berm. Yeah. Do we really understand what that length is? And I brought a rope to kind of demonstrate that.
So for reference, for those of you who are watching, I'm 6'1", and this snake is about 10 feet long. So we are going to,
there should be like an enter.
We will show you a rope, right?
And this rope is actually measured out to exactly the record holder of captive reticulated python.
It's 25 feet 2 inches.
So it's here, and then back.
So yeah.
And then back to me. And then back to Bill. And then back to me again.
15. And
back to Bill. So this is a back and forth 3 separate times for how long the record holder retic is. And that's 25 feet and 2 inches. So they do get very, very long. Most captive ones.
And they're very strong.
And they're very strong.
Because they will pull your sign right over during the middle of your video.
Most captive ones get in the high teens. Like I said, a 25-foot one is our record holder. So we don't expect her to get more than 18 feet or so. And that would be a good snake for us. Normally in our location in our zoo, we have it marked out on the ground so kids can lay head to tail. But I wanted to think of some way you guys online can see it too without just a long walk across my house or something like that.
Okay, I will put, Teresa's going to put her away. And then we're a little low on time for our section, so we're going to do one more giant for you guys. And hopefully nobody's motion sick because we're going to tilt the camera toward the floor so you can see our last giant guy.
You ready?
Hang on. Oh, Albert. Come here, buddy. So, this is Hal. Hal is a spur-thighed tortoise, and this is the 3rd largest species of tortoise in the world. They are an African grassland species, and we are convincing him to stay on the carpet visible for you guys by offering him cucumber and hoping he doesn't immediately poop directly on my feet because I'm the backstop so he won't run away. Spur-thighed tortoises are awesome. They're wonderful diggers. In the wild, their burrows can go 30 meters in length and 15 meters in depth. So you're talking about a tunnel in the dirt, 90 feet long and almost 40 feet into the ground. This particular male that we have, he was a relinquishment who came to us from some folks who couldn't take care of him when he got too big.
mostly because they do tear up all of your landscaping. They
Yes.
make not great pets.
He is 20 years old, and the burrow that he tried to dig in our yard was underneath of our sidewalk. And like I said before, when we were talking about the snake, I'm 6'1", okay? I was in the burrow holding the tortoise, and Teresa was outside the burrow holding my feet. And that's how we had to get him out. And then we filled the burrow with gravel so he wouldn't dig it again. And now we leave the shed in our yard open and he sleeps there. He needed something that was very dark. And so we put a big hay bale inside that shed and he can burrow in there and feel it touching his sides. And that's what makes him feel safe. When we say spur thigh, we're talking about his legs. You can see them splayed out here in front of him. And he digs by pushing those in and swimming the dirt out of the way, right? Because he needs to be able to turn around when he gets to the bottom of the burrow. And then he comes to the front of the burrow and he covers his face with those spurs. So no matter where you're at in the world, from house cats to lions, cats flick things by turning their paw. So if you cover yourself up, you're protecting from that swipe, because the only place that is dangerous for him to be touched is right here on his neck where that soft skin is. So he's just trying to protect his face.
Now, in the wild, these guys are from Africa. And in Africa, they have wet seasons and warm seasons and different seasons. So they don't always have a lot of really moist food. Like
the grass here.
Like the grass here, or like the cucumber we put in front of him. So the cucumber is actually not his primary food source. His primary food source is grass and hay and roughage and things like that. So cucumbers and pumpkins and things like that would be considered a treat for him. Because he's from the United States and he's a captive, what tends to happen with these guys while they're in captivity is they tend to get fed wonderful, delicious, nutrient-rich food like cucumbers and aloe vera plants and cactus and things like that. And because of that, they do have a little bit of growth deformities, typically in captivity. And you can kind of see that again with his shell.
Yep. All right, we'll fix the camera so we can answer some questions for Joe.
Awesome, guys. Thank you so much for showing us some amazing giant reptiles. So we have some questions, and a lot of them honestly have to do with the amount of space that you need for these. So people were wondering, for a big monitor lizard or for a big sulcata, I mean, what kind of space do you need?
So our monitor lizards are all the two larger species that we showed, and actually the tegus they live in a group. The minimum footprint for their cage is 8x4, and then height is a little bit more important for something like the water monitor, because as a youngster he wants to climb. Now as he gets older, he won't want to climb as much, and then his water will be much more important, so he'll need a larger water source to be able to fully swim in. Most people do that separately. They usually get really big troughs. In the basement of our facility, we keep turtles and anything that has water because it's really heavy. And so all of that is separate. So he can go to a trough, swim, burn off some calories and do his thing. But the actual enclosure is just a water bowl big enough that he can submerge himself. And then the Argus monitor, it's much more important that he have deeper dirt. And so his water bowl isn't nearly as big. We actually bring him home and put him in the bathtub if he needs to be soaked or scrubbed or what have you. But it's all environmental factors, if you're a digger or a climber or a swimmer. But the minimum footprint for all of our big guys is 8x4.
And people were wondering, like, what was that? Was that a harness on your monitor lizard, or what exactly is the purpose of that?
We keep, when we are doing shows, we tend to keep the harnesses on both of the monitor lizards because it's just easier to grab. I don't want to grab them by like this. They're not like a cat. You can't grab them by the scruff of their neck. You can't do that. So for reptiles, we tend to keep them on the harnesses because you can grab a hold of that harness and pick them up. We actually did a show one time where we were right beside a bird exhibit, and Asian water monitors, I have to tell you, love birds. So we had the harness on just for the control factor. It's easy to grab a hold of that harness. It is a harness. It's not a collar like a dog. So it is a harness. So it does support them fully, just like if you were to put your hand underneath. But the harness is easier to grab. And on top of that, we don't get scratched up because they do carry nails. I have super stupid sensitive skin, so I get scratched up all the time. So if I can waylay that a little bit with a harness, I'm going to.
And they are leash trainable, larger monitors. Smaller monitors, it's different because they think you're a jungle gym because you're too big. But the very large animals that we have are leash trainable just like a dog. So as they pull, you hold the leash, and you can steer and turn them just like you train a young dog to not pull on the harness and to walk with you and do those things. All of our really large lizards are learning that habit. The water monitor is still pretty young, so he basically ignores us and then just climbs up our pant legs. But the Argus monitor is an adult. He's a large male. He knows if you hold the leash and he tries to pull away, he'll tripod and look around, and then he'll change his direction just like a dog would. So the leash training is exactly the same.
Awesome. And a lot of people are wondering, how do you start, whether it's a reptile rescue or reptile sanctuary? I mean, how do you start something like you guys have?
So we are on the board for Friends of Scales, but we did not found it. But one of the key parts is that Friends of Scales Reptile Rescue is a 501c3 not-for-profit. It is also inspected by the USDA and accredited by the state of Illinois through our Department of Natural Resources. So the easy explanation is a ton of paperwork.
Tons of paperwork. It's not just saying, I'm a rescue,
Yeah.
take an animal, give me an animal. It is looking into your regulations for your state, looking into your regulations. Some of them are federal regulations. And then you do have to have that 501c3. We as Coal Black Exotics don't have that because we can associate with the rescue, and that works a little bit more that way. And then
but that also goes by state, because in our state you have to have special use permits for some things like crocodilians and venomous and different special animals, and also there's permitting for endangered species. So the rescue as a not-for-profit entity has those permits so that we can help with Department of Natural Resources. And then Teresa has those permits as a private individual for the company.
And a private business.
Those are two separate things. And then we have insurance and the rescue's insured. So the easy answer is it's a ton of paperwork. Everybody has to inspect you and insure you and certify you. And then you can start with the actual taking in of animals and treating them and vet care and all those things. But the actual startup process has nothing to do with animals. It has everything to do with officials and paperwork and checking your enclosures and things like that. It's like most stuff. Everybody has to have a form and a signature.
And now I guess this kind of goes with that question. Since you are, doing all those things, how many animals do you typically keep? And also, how do you deal with, keeping so many animals and rescues and, having to do medical care and stuff like that?
We have children.
Yeah, we made our own workforce. So we have about 125 animals. It fluctuates because we do foster things for the rescue.
For the rescue, we tend to keep
big stuff,
but really only between 5 and maybe 10 animals.
Yeah.
Because it is a foster-based rescue. So thank you to all those people who do help us with that.
Absolutely. And
help Erica Mead, who is the face of Friends of Scales. But it's foster-based. So we actually don't have to keep very many animals. The animals that we do keep tend to be the ones that are a little bit bigger, need a little bit of assistance feeding or something like that. But as a rescue, we only keep about 10 tops 10 of their animals.
And that's actually kind of a part of the reptile hobby. So back in the day, sulcata tortoises and giant Nile monitors, it was huge things that were coming into rescues that people didn't want or couldn't handle. That's actually a small portion of rescue animals now. And so that because we have a facility, that's something that we can help with for the rescue. So that's the part that we try to help house, is the big things that's difficult, because the rescue is based out of people's homes. That's harder to do. It's easier if you have a facility. But as the trends in the hobby have shifted, so has the trends in the rescue. So it isn't a lot of giant stuff anymore. And so because they're smaller numbers, Teresa and I can kind of handle it on our own at the facility. And then the rescue can concentrate on the more standard pet type of reptiles that typically come in large numbers, because they also are in the pet trade in large numbers.
So is
Right.
that
And then, like we said,
as
when
far
it
as
comes
the-
to taking care of all of those animals, we
We don't
have
believe in days off.
we
That's what it
don't
is.
have days
We don't
off.
believe in days off.
Just like I'm sure all the other exhibitors today are probably, they come home from their regular job, they check on all their animals, they turn lights on and off, they do all those things. We do the same thing. We come home from our regular jobs, we make sure everybody's fed and watered appropriately. We
Kids
have
first,
days.
then reptiles.
Oh, sure, maybe. But and we have days that we feed specifically and things like that. So scheduling and family. If we didn't have family, it would be very difficult for us.
So I was going to close it out there, but Mark Fitzhenry has been super diligent about getting his question out there. So how did you start your reptiles adventures, and how did you meet? Were you guys interested in reptiles before you guys met?
Oh boy.
Oh no, I get to tell this. No.
Go ahead.
I get to tell this one. I am a reptile nerd, and I have been since I was a kid. My undergraduate degree is in biology, and I went to Blackburn College in Illinois. And in order to go to that college, you had to work there. It's part of the program. And I took care of their animals and did reptile shows for them, and just kind of branched on from there. Teresa is originally from Kansas. I'm not. I'm
Where we
originally
have
from Illinois.
things that you step on and hurt you.
So we met in graduate school, and she was terrified of reptiles, and I did not know that. So we started dating, and I left to go to the military. And in the process of that, we started a family and got married and all that life stuff that happens. And I got home from the military, and I decided I wanted to start back up with the reptile collection, and a lot of the people that graduated high school with me ended up being librarians. So we started doing shows and things. And her response was, "Oh no, I'm terrified of those. I don't want to do that. I just wanted you to like me when we were dating." And so I just got a few, and she basically learned through osmosis, kind of the way we do our shows. I just droned on enough facts about reptiles that she sort of overcame her fears. And then a big part of it was with the kids. So as our kids grew up, we didn't want them to be scared of it. We wanted them to interact with it. And so she kind of faked it till she made it. And now it does work, because she does more shows than I do due to scheduling. So she was terrified. She didn't like them at all. We have a bunch of funny pictures of when she was first holding things, when we first got together. And now she carries all the monitors and is the lizard lady, and she does a ton of shows. So it is possible to overcome your irrational fear as an adult.
Absolutely. So, hey guys, if anyone wants to check out what you guys do, and I know you guys are doing a lot of live streams on Facebook now, where can they check you guys out?
So it's Cole Black Exotics on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, basically any social media platform. Everything we do is family friendly, so no bad language or anything like that. It's all children oriented. And then gigsalad.com is a website we use for bookings. Obviously that doesn't matter as much right now because we're not doing in-person shows. But that is something you can check out. And then absolutely check out Friends of Scales Reptile Rescue.
Here, one second.
Oh, Teresa's blocking the sign.
Wait, no, I gotta turn the camera.
There we
There
go.
you go. Get some screen.
So if you go to an event and you happen to see a lady with blue hair or a dude with a red beard and a bunch of giant critters, that's us. Yeah, you can kind of find us anywhere, man.
Awesome. So Teresa, Bill, I really appreciate you guys coming on and taking part of CritterCon and showing us some amazing giant reptiles.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us.
So, hey guys, wasn't that amazing? Some giant reptiles. some animals that you don't get to see very often because, quite frankly, they're so big that a lot of us can't keep them. So thank you to Bill and Teresa. So our next presenter is one of the first ones that I've ever seen as far as being a reptile educator. I didn't know that this could be a full-time job until I saw Brandon Fowler of Roaming Reptiles, and I saw him traveling all the way up and down California, but now he is servicing Wisconsin. So everyone, please welcome Brandon Fowler of Roaming Reptiles.
Guys, how you doing? My name is Brandon. I'm with Roaming Reptiles. We are, I know it's a little drab looking, but we are in Oshkosh at M Toxins, and this is where we are going to set up, and we will start doing shows here. And if you're ever in Oshkosh, you can come to M Toxins, and they do live venom extractions for you. And then you can see one of our shows. So we are under construction right now. We're setting everything up. But I thought I would show you some of my friends that I use in shows. So the first one we're going to start with is a very, very cool snake. One of my absolute favorites. Her name is Kobe. So let me grab her real quick for you. Kobe is our false water cobra. She's a hypo. And these guys from South America, they are a rear fang snake. Now, you can see her eyes. She is in blue, so she's going to shed here pretty soon. And for most false water cobras, they can be a little bit of an attitude problem, but she has been nothing but a sweetheart, even in shed. So these guys, they will flatten their necks out. They try to look intimidating, scary, but she's not. She is a big baby. And we got her because I was asked to babysit her for a gentleman, and I fell in love with her, and he ended up giving her to me. So now she is part of our family, and she does shows with us, and she is just an absolute sweetheart. These guys will eat rodents, they'll eat fish. They're pretty much opportunistic when it comes to food. They like it all. But you can see, even in shed, even in blue eye, she is absolutely amazing. And so with our shows, what we like to do is we like to get hands-on. We like to get everybody that comes to our shows holding an animal, including Kobe. And so she gets passed around. She's socialized. She's used to it. Very calm, very easygoing. And she's usually not this dark, but she is in shed. But you can see she's a big baby. So we'll move on from her. I'm going to put her up here real quick. And the next one I want to get is a really cool one that we got. It was brought to the United States illegally. It got caught up and sent to a wildlife discovery center. And we got a phone call from my good friend Rob Carmichael, and he asked me if I would like one. So, of course, I said yes, because these guys are just amazing animals. And he said they're all wild caught. This particular one that I'm sending you is the meanest one out of the bunch. And so I got, the most aggressive one out of the bunch. His name is George. George is our monkey tail skink. These guys, I love them. Now they're called monkey tail prehensile tail skinks because they have that prehensile tail. You can see he just hangs out there, right? Now this guy, George, when I first got him, he was not the friendliest lizard out there. I had to work with him quite a bit, and he would gnaw on my fingers a little bit every once in a while. But now you can see I can scratch him on his chin. Just a beautiful, beautiful animal. And what's really cool about these guys, they live in a family structure, and that's really unusual. They'll live in the canopies in those trees, and they'll stay up there with their mate, even with the babies. And they give a live birth, and that female may have only one baby every couple of years, maybe two if they're lucky. So they don't really populate a lot, but they are really cool animals. And one thing I tell people in my shows, I absolutely love George. He's one of my favorite lizards, but I shouldn't have him. He should be in the wild, right? There's absolutely no reason to take these animals from the wild anymore. We have captive breeding. So I tell people, if you're outside, you're out road cruising, or you're just out in the desert, camping, and you see a snake, you see a lizard, a tortoise, take a picture of it. Enjoy the beauty of that animal and its surroundings. But there's no reason to take it out of those surroundings. It needs to stay there. We have tons of captive breeders here in the United States that you can get animals from, including monkey-tail skinks. But these guys are just beautiful. I absolutely love them. The color, right? That tail, even for me that I've been in reptiles most of my life, it's still, I look at that tail and I see what he can do with it. It's still kind of amazing. But we do love George. He is a good boy. Now, let's move on. And I'm going to get a new one that we just got. And this is our male red tegu, Argentine tegu. So we literally just got him, and I wanted to show him off because he is a stunner. And you'll see those big chubby cheeks, right? They will get bigger as he gets bigger. So that's kind of a male thing. I think Bill talked about it, kind of show off for the ladies. And so these guys right now, he will eat fruits and vegetables. He'll also eat some bugs. He may get a couple of rodents here and there. But these guys, if you like big lizards, you can't beat tegus. They are really cool. And you can see how he's sticking that tongue out, right? So he's smelling, seeing what's going on around him. But as far as big lizards, these guys, you can't beat them. They are pretty amazing. And so with an animal like this, when I do my shows, I have kids, I have adults come up, and I just put them on their shoulder and let them hold them like a baby, right? Give them little love taps, and they will sit there and they will cuddle with you, right? They are amazing lizards. So if you're into big lizards, this is it. You cannot beat them. So we do have a female, but she's quite a bit smaller right now. But you can see that nice red color on him. And if you look at his tail, he is going into shed, or finishing up his shed. And where most snakes will shed in one piece, right? If the humidity's right, these guys will shed in pieces, right? So that you're not going to get one complete shed. They'll shed in pieces. They'll be scattered all over the place. So it makes cleanup fun afterwards. But you can't beat tegus. All right. Now, another new one that we're getting, or that we just got, is something I've always wanted. And being in California, they were very excited about these guys. I love them. This is Wesley. Wesley is our little American alligator. He is just the cutest little guy, right? He is just a few months old, and you can see how tiny he is. In fact, today he was doing his little his croaking, right, wanting his mom. But these guys, they're not for everybody. We have a facility so we can house them and house them correctly and give them what they need. This is not for everybody. I'm not the guy that's going to say you shouldn't have that, because if you can house it and you can do it correctly and responsibly, have fun, right? Enjoy these animals. But like I said earlier, remember, captive born only. No reason to take these guys from the wild. But you can see, I'm already starting to work with him where I can scratch on his chin, give him his pets. And so he's been really cool. Right now he's getting crickets. He'll get some worms. He may get a pinky every once in a while. He just croaked for me. And so what he's doing, when he gets a little scared, he might do that little call, right? He's calling for his mom. So we'll put him back in his water, let him relax for a little while. But I want to show him off because we are really, really excited about this boy. Now, I don't know how many of y'all have seen our shows before, but I talk about what got me into reptiles. When I was young, I was probably 6, 7 years old. I remember my dad came inside the house and he was holding 2 of these, and they were actually in our backyard. And ever since then, I've kind of been hooked on reptiles. And this was the first snake I have ever owned. This is Elvis, our California king snake. These guys, I love them. Now, king snakes do make great pets. They can get a little bitey sometimes. But the good news is they're not venomous and their bites are pretty much harmless. Now, these guys are so important to us because these guys, they help control that rattlesnake population, right? They will eat rattlesnakes, which is pretty amazing. And so these guys, they help with that population, and they will also wiggle their tail, right? So they can shake that tail really quick, and it almost gives off like a rattlesnake sound. It goes against leaves and small rocks, and it sounds like a rattle. And that's one of their defense mechanisms. So these guys, you can get them pretty much in any color now. People have been breeding these guys for a long time. This is just a normal California king snake. He's just a beautiful animal. We absolutely love Elvis, and he's done a good 500 to 600 shows already. He goes nonstop, and he's a perfect ambassador. So if you're ever in Oshkosh, come by, and you can hold Elvis and see how he's doing. I went to Oregon when we were in California doing shows. I got a call from a teacher friend of mine in Oregon, and he wanted me to drive up with some animals. And I remember the first day I walked into this school, I walked in the office, and there was a little girl in the office reading a book, and she was reading a book on blue-tongued skinks. And so I had one. I hadn't named it yet. So we did the assembly. I called her up, and so I named our blue-tongued skink after her. So this is Harper. And we got Harper from Ty Park. Ty Park is a big supporter of us. He sends us a lot of animals if we need something. He doesn't hesitate to help out educators because he knows the work we put in. And so we got Harper as just a little hatchling, and now she is nice and beefy, right? So these guys, she might stick out her blue tongue to see if she'll do. There it is. So you see that blue tongue. In the wild, what they would do when they get scared, they will kind of turn their body sideways. They'll puff up. They'll stick that blue tongue out and they wave it around, and that's going to scare off predators, right? Now, when she does it, she may do it every once in a while, but once you pick her up, she is a total sweetheart. Now, these guys will live on a lot of things. In captivity, we will give her bugs. She'll eat some of the other stuff, but she'll eat dog food, so we do give her that. And you'd be surprised on what some of these animals can live on. Even tegus can live on dog food. That's been proven. And, it has to be a high quality, but they can do it. So this is another animal that goes everywhere to our shows. She's always popular. Everyone loves to hold her and interact with her because she is just a total sweetheart. Now, this next one is actually my son, little Brandon. It's his thing, but I use her in shows. Her name is Dorothy. I got a phone call when we were in California that somebody moved out and left her abandoned. They just up and left her. And so she was in his house for quite a while, just in a cage. No water, no nothing. They just left her. We got her, and she had a little bit of an attitude, but we socialized her, got her working pretty well. She does a lot of shows now. So Dorothy is a hypo jungle boa. And she is, again, a total sweetheart now. So now she is on jumbo rats in a frozen thawed. And I got to give a plug to Cold Blooded Cafe because they sponsor us and they do amazing work for us. They help us out with anything we need. And so Dorothy, she's not full grown. She'll get a little bit bigger. But these guys, as far as snakes go, I tell people if you want a snake and you're looking for a boa, buy a baby so you can grow with that animal, right? Now, she was left abandoned in that house, which is very sad. And I can't say it enough. When you buy a pet, when you buy a reptile, it's like buying a dog, right? It is part of your family. Treat it like that. You cannot abandon it. Do not let it go, no matter what. If by some chance you cannot keep it, you find someone who can, someone responsible. Friends of Scales, right? They are amazing. Help them out, right? Go to these places. You can find some cool animals that people just might not be able to take care of anymore. So Dorothy has been an ambassador for about 3 years now. She's done close to 400 shows, and she's been handled by hundreds of thousands of people. And so it's really kind of a cool thing to have these animals that they've done so much in education. So let's put her up here. Now, this next one is, I've had a Rhinoceros Iguana. When I was young, I remember we went to a street fair, and this guy had this huge Rhino Iguana on his shoulder. And I remember just thinking, I have to have one of those. And Ty Park sent me a Rhino Iguana. We named her Atlantis. And she was my baby. She was the best. And unfortunately, she had spine issues when we got her. And she passed away about 2 months ago. My lovely wife surprised me with a new Rhino Iguana. And so we've had her for about a week, or yeah, about a week, 2 weeks. And so I wanted to show you that she is beautiful. So this is Jane. Jane is our little Rhino Iguana. Now she's small, right? She doesn't have that confidence yet. We're still working on it, but you can see she's trying. But these guys are called Rhino Iguanas because she has these 3 little horns, and as she grows, those horns are going to get bigger. Now, these get big, right? They can live a long, long time, up to 50 years sometimes. Right now, she will eat some worms, she will eat some protein, but the vast majority of her diet is fruits and vegetables. And one thing we've learned about her is she loves bananas. She will go crazy for bananas. She loves them. Rhinos, one of my favorite iguana species. They are truly kind of the puppy dogs of the reptile world, right? You socialize and you work with them enough, they will be your best friend. But you can see she is absolutely beautiful, even though she does open her mouth and try to have a little bit of attitude. But over time, she will mellow out, and we will have kids. We will have everybody holding her and interacting with her. So let me try to put her up here. Now, probably the most popular snake kept right now are ball pythons. I love normal ball pythons, just the normal looking ball pythons. I think they're absolutely beautiful. But there's one morph that I've always wanted, and that is a piebald. This is our piebald ball python. Now, these guys are considered a starter snake. They're easy to take care of. They can be a little picky on their food, but for the most part, they're perfect, right? And you can see how that color mutation starts and ends and just goes to white. That is a beautiful, beautiful animal. And so these guys, a lot of them are kept as pets, and they're, like I said, the most popular out there. But these guys, unfortunately, there's a lot turned into rescues, right? These guys get turned in all the time. People buy them because they're cute, but then they get kind of bored of them because ball pythons don't really do a lot, right? A lot of people call them like a pet rock because they just kind of sit in a spot and just hang out. But so make sure you do your research, understand the animal you're getting, and if you do it, you will have a great, great pet. So I want to thank Joe for having us, including us in this program. I thought the other presenters did amazing. If you have a chance to go see any of them, please do, because you will not regret it. I want to thank Joe, because this has been a tough time for all of us, especially getting shut down and losing all these shows. But I know we've all kind of talked, and we're making do, and we're making it happen. And when we're ever to do these shows, when it's time to come out to these shows, you guys be ready, because we're going to blow up. And I know all the presenters tonight, we're going to book up quick. So I want to thank Joe. Thank you, guys, and hope you come see us. Thank you.
Awesome, Brandon. Thank you for showing us so many awesome reptiles, some four-legged friends that we haven't seen before, as well as a cow king, which is pretty close to my heart. So I think a common thread between a lot of this, and including some of the other presenters, is just the fact of, doing a lot of research before you get an animal. And it seems like you guys, you in particular, and the other presenters, really have a lot of animals that come from, mishandled situations.
So yeah, a lot of our animals are from people that maybe just didn't do their research, and just couldn't keep them anymore. One thing I stress to people who wants a new pet: not only do your research, but reach out to people. Reach out to educators. Call me, email me, something. If I don't know the answer, I will find out for you. And I know it was said earlier, we don't know everything. right? We have to go out and we have to research too, or we ask people that have experience in a particular animal. So for all new keepers, if you have that passion and that drive and you want to keep an animal, reach out and ask for help. Don't be afraid to. There's the Madison Area Herp Society on Facebook. And if you don't do Facebook, you know, you can call anybody, but stay out of Facebook groups for the most part for help. Call someone, email someone, let them help you.
Absolutely. So a lot of people are thinking about getting their first snake in the chat. And Danielle in particular asked, is there anything that new snake owners may not expect that they may be surprised for? Anything to look out for?
I tell people this, you have to be willing to get bit, right? You get a baby, it's going to be standoffish. They're not adults. They don't have that confidence yet. And when you get a new snake, a lot of people say, well, leave it alone for a week, or, you know, let it just kind of mellow out. That snake is already stressed from coming to your home. If you ordered it, it got shipped to your house, it's already stressed. So the moment you get that snake, start handling it, right? And do it with confidence. You can't be shaky when you go to pick it up. Act like you've done it a million times, right? You got to be confident with it. And over time, that snake is going to calm down and be a big baby, right? But you will get bit. It's going to happen. And the best thing, like I said, or like I'll say, is if you get bit, you know, your first reaction is obviously to kind of move your hand back and jerk away. Try not to do that, right? Not only are you going to hurt yourself, but you could really hurt that snake. So you kind of just want to take it and maybe put it under some water, let some cold water drip on it. That helps get the snake off. It's just take your time, relax, take a breath, but handle every day.
Awesome. So we also have a few people that are, you know, debating a few different animals. So people are asking, is a garter snake a good first snake? Is a ball python a good first snake? What are the pros and cons of species like that?
So here's my view on starter snakes. Other than venomous, take venomous out of it. Even though there are some people that do that, and they should, but that's a whole other subject. The best starter snake for you is the best one, is the one you're willing to learn most about. The one you're willing to go just dive in and learn and ask questions and try to understand, you know, how other people keep it. That's the best snake. Ball pythons are good, corn snakes are good, milk snakes are good. They're usually pretty calm, easy, relaxed. King snakes, like I said, can get a little nippy, but the best snake for you is the one you're willing to learn most about.
Absolutely. So some people want to learn more about Rhino Iguanas. So that was a little guy that you just had out right there. How big do Rhino Iguanas get?
So these guys can get 5 foot. They can get, you know, 30 pounds. They are big. They are bulky. You know, so you got to have a really good cage enclosure for them. So they have that room. They will climb a little bit, but the biggest thing is just room, a lot of floor space for them. So when we had our big iguana, it'd be like an 8 foot enclosure for it that it can kind of roam around and find its temperature it wants. But like I said, anybody that wants a rhino iguana, they're still a little pricey, but man, are they worth it, because they are the puppy dog of the iguana world.
So this is a personal question, because I've honestly been thinking about getting a Cyclura myself, which is the genus that rhino iguanas are in. So how do you plan on with your baby? I mean, how do you plan on getting it accustomed to you and making a great pet out of it?
So my wife bought my rhino for me, and literally every day my wife has been holding her. I've been holding her. My kids go by and hold her. And so we also use this, a little clicker. And so anytime we're going to hold her, we click. And she knows, okay, it's not food time, it's playtime, right? And so I'll do this until she gets full grown. I'll continue to do it that way before shows. When I get her ready, she's click trained, and she knows, okay, it's playtime. So it's daily interaction every day, no matter what. No matter what our schedule is, we are interacting with our animals because we want to make sure they are confident in themselves and calm enough to do these shows when we have 1,000 people or 1,500 people at our shows.
So is that an animal, I mean, at that size that you would typically bring out to shows, or is this just kind of, since it's a virtual thing, that worked out?
Yeah, I won't bring her to an actual show probably for a year. Let her get some size, let her build her confidence up. I brought her here because I wanted to show everybody how cute a little Rhino Iguana is.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was amazing, and put on a little bit of a show too.
Yeah. She's, like I said, the thing about babies, they just don't have that confidence, right? They're not confident in themselves yet. They're worried that everyone's going to try to eat them. But once they get that confidence, I'll put her on a table and kids will walk up and pet her and play with her, and she'll just kind of hang out.
That's awesome. So if anyone's interested in checking out more of what you have going on at Roaming Reptiles, I mean, where on the web can they find you?
So you can go to roamingreptiles.com. You can go Roaming Reptiles of Wisconsin on Facebook. And we do have Roaming Reptiles in California. My friend Brian Cusco from Triple B TV, he runs that now for me, and he's doing amazing. Unfortunately, he's got shut down through all this also, but he's going to start picking it up. So we have one in California and one in Wisconsin now. So any social media, you'll find us.
Excellent. Brandon Fowler of Roaming Reptiles, thank you so much for closing out CritterCon, and just thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Joe, for doing this, man. It means a lot to us. You're awesome, man. I really appreciate this.
And if you don't mind, just stick around in the control room because I'm going to bring you all back just for a little thank you at the end.
Okay.
Awesome. So like I said, kind of like how I was getting into, thank you guys so much for being here for CritterCon. And thank you all the people who supported this, all the people who helped during this whole process. Obviously, it wasn't just me. It wasn't just me and the presenters. It was a bunch of other people. Special thanks to Ian Bissell, who taught me a bunch of things from S&J Reptiles. He basically taught me a bunch of the sales stuff and how to get sponsors on. So thank you to him. Jeff Frederick of Hands of Jeff, who designed every single thing that you see for CritterCon, and he did it on a moment's notice, even in the middle of the night. We put all this together in 10 days. So thank you to Jeff for his incredible hard work. I will put a link to his stuff as well in the description. And of course, to our gold sponsors, Josh's Frogs. So check them out for all your reptile and amphibian needs, as well as they have things like live plants and terrariums and really, really amazing animals, as well as isopods and stuff like that. And also Superior Shipping Supplies, who gives me all of my supplies to ship out my animals. And Breeza and Clayton, they've been great friends to us over there. And Scott, they're amazing. They'll take care of you. If you are a reptile breeder and you ship animals out, please check them out. And also silver sponsors, like I said before, Ian Vassell of S&J Reptiles, amazing green tree pythons. So check out his animals, as well as Morelia Pythons Radio. So they have an amazing podcast that talks all about the rarer animals. So if you want to get a little bit deeper than we got today, and you want to learn about really rare, especially pythons, go check out their podcast. They've been mentors to me in this hobby. So I just thank them not only for sponsoring, but also to being mentors for me, which ultimately makes stuff like this happen. So thank you guys so much. And I'm going to bring on our presenters because they've done an amazing job. And I'm so glad that they had faith and confidence in me to pull something like this off. So thank you guys. And can you just give a good, we'll go from Crosstown over to Brandon to Snake Discovery to CBX. Give a good thank you and a little message to all the people who watched today.
Yeah. Again, thanks to everyone that came out today. Again, this is something that we are normally always doing, and the fact that we're during this pandemic, we're unable to educate the public. It feels kind of like something's missing. So we're really looking forward to being back on the road and seeing all your bright and shiny smiling faces later on this year. So, but yeah, thanks again to all of our sponsors, and yeah, this has been a pleasure.
All right, Brandon.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in. It's been rough, right? Losing these shows, not being able to do it, but doing something like this has been really amazing, and to see the other three presenters do such an amazing job. This was just so much fun being able to share our pets, our animals with you. This is our passion. This is what we love to do. This is what I do full time. And so being able to share that with you was very special to me. I got to tell you, I was incredibly nervous before this because I'm used to actually being in front of people, and just being in front of a camera freaks me out a little bit. But thank you guys for watching.
Your name.
And thank you for all the sponsors. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much.
Awesome. I know it can be a weird energy shift when you're used to having a crowd bouncing back at you, but now you're just staring at a camera.
Yeah, I'm used to, like, you know, yelling and stuff. So.
And Emily, I mean, you have something on your shoulder right now.
Yeah, we're back at home now and head to work. So we cruise from the facility to home. But yeah, this is Cheyenne, our blue and gold macaw. But thank you, everybody, for joining today and supporting us educators. It had been a while since I did a program, so it was fun to do one again. And thank you to all the amazing sponsors for helping fund this event. I hope we're able to do another one, but that's all up to Joe and all the other presenters. But we had a lot of fun. So thank you to everybody involved.
The amount of Ed comments coming in right now is just absolutely ridiculous.
Oh my gosh, it's all Ed.
Scrolling,
Ed.
The whole thing is scrolling down with saying Ed.
You need to at least stick your hand in.
This is like
What they want, Ed.
at the end of a 2-hour show.
There he is.
How amazing is
You
it?
won.
That's all he has to do, and people are just blown away by it.
That's awesome. I didn't think you'd do that.
Well, thank Ed for coming on camera.
Yep.
Thank you,
Thank
Emily,
you.
for hanging out.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us.
So, Bill and Teresa, last but not least.
Yeah. So we're very grateful for everybody that bought a ticket and tuned in, and it was awesome. My biggest thing that I wanted to point out is that you would think, so we're all in the same industry, right? So you would think that we're competitors, and it would be weird that we would work together and that kind of thing. It's awesome because it's not. We're not. Like we know Colin and Mike, we know Brandon, we met Emily at NARBC, like we hang out, we text chat, we Facebook message. This really is much more of a community thing, and I think that's amazing. There was never any question like, hey, you guys want to hook up with these other 3 companies and do this thing?
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. I think that speaks volumes to the people that are doing it, that we all came together to do that. Even though we all work in the same industry, I think that's super cool.
Absolutely. And I just want to make it clear that, I mean, you 4 are here because you guys are some of the best. And I'm so glad that I could get everyone together to do a show like this. It's just crazy. And I really, really appreciate it. Obviously, it doesn't happen without you guys. And also to all the people who bought tickets, everyone who's still hanging out in this live stream after 2 hours and 7 minutes. Thank you guys so much. And maybe we'll have to do this again.
Would love to.